Hi, Ref. Welcome to the 100X show.
Hey, good to be here, Mehdi.
Arif, so I've already told our community about Althea AI. Our community already has an introduction, at least knows about it through some of the live streams and some of the webinars we have done with our customer. So now moving on, my first question would be regarding your background and your team. So over here, I'm trying to assess with Althea AI the founder market fit and ability of your team to solve problems after shipping the product, for example.
Sure, no, happy to share. Just briefly about me, my background. I got into crypto around late 2016, early 2017. My prior work experience was in the Web2 tech world. I had worked with LinkedIn in Southeast Asia, growing their market, and later on joined a company called Grab, which is like the Uber of Southeast Asia, backed by SoftBank and others, where I was doing product marketing and strategy. And I bit the crypto bug, I think, around early 2017 when I read the Ethereum white paper, didn't fully understand it, spent some time trying to understand it even more, spoke to friends who understood it, and then took a leap of faith and then joined a company called SingularityNet as their chief marketing officer, where we have a they where we were back then building a marketplace with AI agents, so that people can purchase these AI agents, and then at the same time, it's a blockchain-based marketplace with its own native economy and token. So that was a really great opportunity for me to learn about the AI and blockchain merger, and then somewhat foolishly, and I say this with some with some luck and some fortune, like we started the company just I raised my hand and said, just before the pandemic started, I raised my hand and said I want to start my own company, right? So the moment we did that, the pandemic started. This was towards the end of 2019, early 2020, and we've been somewhat blessed and fortunate to be able to build through that period with limited funding. 2020 was a very difficult year, but then 2021, once our original thesis started to play out, investors really started to get the message. In 2020, to talk to an investor about NFTs, like if they did not know it, like a vast majority of them did not know it. And the few that knew it also knew that Dapper Labs CryptoKitties was a fad, right? They saw it as like a minor blip. So the team that we have recruited is really technically sophisticated. It comes from my experience personally managing large distributed teams. At Alethea, we now have about, I would say, approximately about 100 people across mainly primarily machine learning and blockchain engineers. We also have a strong marketing and biz dev team. But the core thrust of the team is to combine two exponential technologies, which is the AI side of the equation, and then also the blockchain side of the equation. These are two very difficult technologies to combine and execute on. And so our team is structured in a way that's somewhat unique and different, and I'll tell you why. When I was at LinkedIn, I used to work. With companies to map out their talent pool and strategy. And when we started Alethea, this sounds weird, but like I think I hired one of the best computer vision engineers. Really difficult to find. I spent hours looking for this guy. Once we found him, we hired him. He then put the post up on LinkedIn saying, that he's at Alethea. Within 3 months, because we were not well funded, just transparently, we were like on shoestring budgets. We were not well funded. Within 3 months, he was headhunted by a different competitor. So we have a hybrid approach now. We have the founding team, which includes me and two other co-founders. We have a hybrid approach in that our technical team is pseudonymous, and they are present in our Discord. They're present on GitHub. But I have an agreement with them that the reason why this is structured this way is we don't want our roadmap to be technically copied. We don't want people to reverse engineer how we're thinking about it. Because if you look at talent, strategy, and data, like people can reverse engineer based on who you're hiring, what your likely roadmap is going to be, right? So we have a technical team that's pseudonymous, and then we have a marketing and business team that's public facing and front facing. So it's a little bit of a different approach because the market we're operating in is very, very competitive, because we're not just competing against Web2 metaverses that are now going into this new direction, but we're also trying to combine AI and blockchain technology so that technical sophistication requires a reliability on us to execute. So far, the good news is we've been able to execute, and we've built a really good community of about 30,000 Aletheans, people who really believe in our mission and vision, who use our products to create videos and content. and all of it is AI generated, synthetically generated. Very, very different.
Yeah, I really like when you join Discord. There is an INFT that basically welcomes you. So I found that very fascinating. There's a video clip. Then when you join your Discord, you can kind of see that.
Yeah, absolutely. So like you'll find the product to be integrated in Alethea itself, and we call them the Revenants. So these characters that you see welcoming you, they're actually INFTs owned by people. It's a collection we launched last year called the Revenants, and every time they're used in the network by anyone in the network, the owner of the Revenant is rewarded with Ali tokens or Ali credits, and they can then use those tokens to then participate further in the economy and ecosystem. So content creation, synthetic content generation, we don't need a video camera anymore. The Revenants welcome you to the arc. They talk to you, they engage with you, and they're able to have specific functions and utility. So we've been able to build the entire team to create this core technology where it's across multiple disciplines: computer vision, synthetic audio, synthetic speech generation, synthetic intelligence, where you can get answers to questions from these characters. There's a combination of multiple AI technologies that we have developed together.
Yeah, I just wanted to show our audience Revenants because they're quite special. There are only 100 of them. So I'll share my screen and show them. These are historical figures, and I found them to be quite fascinating. One thing I find fascinating is I would say these are either the first or the second AI-based NFTs. First being the Sophia AI, and after that, Revenant. I'm assuming was the second collection.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Technically, the first INFT was an INFT we sold on Sotheby's. If you type Sotheby's Alice INFT, you'll see the first INFT ever auctioned off. And this was a character that, and this is how we scale the technology as well, right? Like the first character that was sold. Yes, that's her. The first character that we created was very complex, very difficult to create. It required our engineering team nearly burnt out, right? It was that exhausting to like develop a character. But the unique thing about this character, Alice, is her brain or her consciousness or her language structure is trained on two things. You can ask her anything about Alice in Wonderland, which is like Lewis Carroll's book. But then you can also ask her, we trained her on Satoshi's white paper, the Bitcoin white paper. So you can ask this Alice about anything in that white paper, and she'll be able to give you a response as if she's Alice in Wonderland talking about the Satoshi white paper. So like one time you asked her a question, where was she from or where is she right now? And the normal Alice would answer by saying that she's in a wonderland, right? I'm in a wonderland. But because she was trained on Satoshi's white paper, she answered it in a way that she's in a decentralized crypto rabbit hole, right? So like that's the difference when you combine these two intelligences together. So this was the first one that sold, and then once we scaled up the tech, so this was in June last year, we then continued scaling up the tech, and then in October we launched the Revenants because we said, okay, now we did one, can we do 100, right? And so these are the first 100 INFTs that now are all live. They're all interactive. They talk to you. They engage with you. They're all different, distinct, and unique. They're all on Noah's Ark, and you can actually go on the Alethea.ai platform and you can actually inquire and speak with them. And this is like the first building blocks of the metaverse. Now we did the 100. What's coming next is going to be 10,000, and then 100,000, and then a million, right? So we're scaling that technology up.
Yeah, I think now it's a good time to kind of segue into basically telling our audience what intelligent NFTs are and what is Noah's Ark. Maybe perhaps you can share your screen and give us a bit, like show us a bit of the platform and give us an overview of what you have built.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's always helpful. Just let me just pause and take a step back a little bit. Alethea AI, what it is it's a decentralized protocol to create intelligent and interactive NFTs. That means our vision is anybody can take any NFT asset that they have. Could be a Bored Ape, could be a Punk, could be maybe not a Pixelmon, but maybe you can take any of these assets and you can add them into the Alethea AI ecosystem, and you can make them come alive, right? And the way we do this is we are able to have on-chain provenance for the NFT, but we're also able to integrate an off-chain AI engine that allows the NFT to become animated and to become interactive. So high-level overview, I'll just share like a simple graphic with your community. So they begin to understand like how we piece it together. So, and I encourage your community to read this fairly researched paper that we have put together. But at the core of it, right, is this idea of what is an INFT. An INFT is an intelligent interactive NFT. It's core to our thesis. So at the center is a body, just like the human being, right? Let's say a body, and then there's a mind, and then there's a soul. The soul, the body is any NFT project, any PFP project that you want to bring to life. How you bring it to life is you pair it with a soul, which is also an NFT, which is also a unique collection that we launched. We have 10,000 of these souls out there that have their own market, that have their own economics, that have their own levels. You can pair this NFT with, you can pair the soul with any NFT, and the moment the NFT has a soul, it can then begin offering services. And services are very, very important because it's a job. It's just like being human, right? So, there are people who do copywriting, there are people who do data science, there are people who do technical analysis, there are people who write content. So these are jobs and functions these AI based NFTs will be able to do, will be able to function as. They might be able to one day place trades for you. In this situation, the INFT, the moment you have a soul, it can start offering services on the Alethea AI Noah's Ark. And today, how we do that, the services that these NFTs offer include. Today, it's oriented around creating video content, creating synthetic content. But you can use an INFT. Can you see the Noah's Ark platform right
Yeah,
now?
I can. Yeah.
Great. So this is like live and this is fully ready. So all of these revenants that you saw earlier, Mahdi, that you brought up, and including like we have other INFTs like a waifu
So,
or
so at the moment, how many uh, NFT collections are supported? I can see apart from Revenants, I can see
yeah,
other NFTs, Bored Ape,
yeah.
as well.
Today we support 10 collections. We are scaling this capacity up. That means as long as you own that collection, you can come in, fuse it with a pod, train that pod to have certain functions or services, and that character would be able to be brought to life. Today we support 10, but soon we'll be scaling up to 100, then 1,000, then like infinity, right? Like the goal is to be able to exponentially scale where anybody who owns any NFT can come into the platform, animate it with life, bring it to life, and then be able to do something useful with the NFT. So we are at the core like AI infrastructure for NFTs, right? That allows them to come to life.
Yeah, just to re-emphasize that point for a lot of our listeners, when you own an NFT, you're taking a concentrated bet on one particular NFT. But with this Ali token or INFT pods, you can basically have like an index level exposure of the whole NFT sector. So let's say if the whole NFT sector does well, automatically that can also translate success for your platform because you get the exposure of the whole NFT sector.
Yeah, no, that's a very good call out because we are that horizontal layer that allows all NFTs to get that superpower of AI, right? And more people use the AI, the more the AI gets smarter, but the NFT also has functional utility. So, for example, like let's say if you, I don't know, it's Halloween or well, let's say it's Halloween and oh, I should have signed in a little bit earlier, but like let me just show you very quickly how we can sign in here and get it going. Okay, let me see if I have some credits in my account. Um, but yeah, once you have, let's say, you selected a character like Dracula, or let's say in this case Mumtaz Mahal, you can then have her recite, create video content. You can then have her do broadcast videos. You can also then have her do real-time live interactions. Now, these are basic functions today, but where it's going to get really interesting is when these INFTs can create their own NFT assets. That means they'll be able to create generative art. That means, you could ask Mumtaz Mahal, hey Mumtaz, the Taj Mahal was built after you. Can you create a new version of the Taj Mahal in the metaverse today? Mumtaz Mahal's INFT uses the AI tools that we have trained her on. She generates a 3D like avatar of the Taj, a 3D like composite sketch of the modern version of the Taj Mahal, and then it's uploaded to the metaverse in Sandbox, and that's her design, right? So the capacity of these INFTs to create new assets is also something that is going to be really unique. A Bored Ape can create their own Bored Ape mansion. The power is when the AI multiplier is applied to the asset below and is able to then create new assets. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So let's say when you're speaking to Mumtaz Mahal, her facial expression, her accent, is that like apart from all of these functionality you describe, is that something that also kind of changes over time? Like I would love to learn about the tech behind it, like that kind of crafts all of these features, like her accent, her facial expression, her gestures, along with some of the specifications you described.
Yeah, absolutely. So to know a little bit more about the tech, there's actually a really good. I think this was the one that I was trying to point out earlier. This was the report that Sotheby's put together for us, which was called. It commissioned a report to audit the technology that we had, right? And so, if you read this condition report, we highlight the five AI engines that must exist to make a character come alive, right? Like it's not just so straightforward where you can just uh, bring a character to life. There are five machine learning, finely tuned engines that are running. Just like you need engines to you need an engine to make a car go, you need fuel, you need all of the different components to come together to create a combustion engine, right? So for this character to make a character come alive, you need lip sync, the ability to talk in real time. That means the lip sync is occurring in real time, the matching. You need the character to be able to understand, pick up speech recognition of different accents. You need the character to comprehend what you've just said. So that's a comprehension engine. And then you need the character to have a voice. So there's synthetic voice going out. And then you need the character to also respond intelligently so it doesn't sound dumb. So all of these five things coming together to make one NFT come alive is the underlying infrastructure. And the way it works is the moment somebody buys an AI pod, they then get access to these five engines. They're able to utilize these engines to then bring their own NFTs to life. And that's why these two technologies, why we think it's a convergence, is because we've solved the AI portion and we've solved the blockchain portion, and now it's about making these collections come alive and gaining that mass awareness. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So one thing to kind of explore is that why do you need blockchain? Like, what and how is it different from, let's say, Web two centralized services? Let's say we can also kind of think about Alexa, like a digital form of Alexa. Why do we need blockchain in this
Yeah.
case?
So I think like one of the most powerful things that has occurred, like, and this is why it's like a revolution, right? Like, it's that ownership layer and the property rights layer. Our vision is that the metaverse is going to have billions of these characters, billions of these INFTs, intelligent interactive NFTs. And the reason why we put NFT in there is not just a small point or like to capture a wave. I mean, we've been talking about this endlessly for the past 3 years now, right? And when we first talked about it, very few people listened. But the reason why it's really important is because the blockchain property rights record allows the individual, the owner, the single person, let's say me, the small man on the street, the small business, or the mid-sized company, or even the large corporation or brand that wants ownership, right? It allows them to have ownership of that specific asset. So, for example, if you look at the Alexa example that you gave, Amazon controls Alexa, not you as an owner. You can have certain preferences, but Amazon controls all of the data that it generates. It then curates that, and you pay Amazon a fee. In this case, what we're doing is we're empowering you, the creator, the brand, the builder, the small business, to create your own INFTs and to be able to own the asset in the metaverse and have it earned for you. So we're not Amazon, we're not Alexa, it's an open protocol. And you then can bring so the use cases then just become enormous, right? So let's say instead of having Alexa or Siri at home, you wanted, I don't know, you wanted your family to know about its culture, and let's say you had the voice of your grandfather as the Alexa voice, and you could instead of the Alexa voice, right? And you could own this INFT, and you could also then pass this down. And then one day, if you're going to pass on, you get your voice captured, you get your synthetic content captured, and you're able to then pass that down as well, right? So just like we pass down today, I mean, organically, biologically, we pass down our DNA, right? By having kids, we will soon be able to do the same for our voice, for our facial expressions, for our synthetic intelligence, the books that we have written or talked about, the research articles, Mehdi, that you might have written about as well. All of this can capture the essence of what a person's language structure is, and that can actually be passed down as an INFT. And that provenance or ownership layer belongs to you and belongs to your wallet. So every wallet that has that has tokens today, our belief is that every wallet will also be able to have an AI agent, AI NFT, an intelligent NFT in it as well. And that's the beauty of this. It's no longer centralized control. It's really giving the owner and user the opportunity to decide what they want to do with the culture they create. And so this can be like bringing back relatives that are important to them, or even creating new characters that are meaningful in their lives, right? So from a cultural standpoint, we see this as very transformative. Of course, there'll be endless use cases in indie games and avatar.
Yeah, let's say we are in 2030. So preserving culture and preserving identity could be one. But let's say we are in 2030. What are some of the use cases you kind of envision for AI based NFTs and for example, INFTs in this case?
Yeah, I think one thing that's going to occur is like this. So the AI portion is going to get more and more intelligent, right? The NFT portion is somewhat transparently, it's just on chain, and that signature is there. That's a unique fingerprint forever. So understand that it's transaction volume that creates markets. That's a great financial innovation. But the AI portion is going to get more sophisticated over time. Today, these AI NFTs, these INFTs, can interact and talk with you and engage with you, and soon will be able to create art. But tomorrow or 2030, what's going to happen is they will be able to place trades for you. They will be able to analyze and provide information about your life. Anything, any large tech company out there providing services today, these INFTs would be able to do those services. It's customer relationship data, B2B use cases. There's going to be B2C use cases around entertainment and media. There's going to be like financial trading applications. These INFTs might be able to do tell you when to enter the market or when to exit the market. Robo advisors, right? But instead of a robo advisor, you actually own the INFT. You actually own the AI and the NFT below it, right? So for us, we just see like an endless canvas of possibilities, because the AI portion is where the technology is going to scale over the years. They're going to be poets, they're going to be artists. So like one vision, it sounds weird, but one day, like one of our INFTs, whose name is like I think Shakespeare, right? Shakespeare may one day be able to write a novel or write a play that gets created on Broadway and that wins an award. Or Machiavelli might be able to write the next best novel that is on the New York Times bestseller. So these INFTs are going to start participating in creating content, and that's really where this starts to get really interesting.
Yeah, one thing you discussed earlier is that you have to lock tokens, lock early tokens, for example, and the more you stake, let's say the higher proportion you stake, the more features get unlocked. So I wanted to just decode the token utility of Ali and also kind of discuss the train to earn element of your protocol as well, because we have seen play to earn kind of kick off. How does train to earn works, and how do you kind of envision where this doesn't kind of creates an impact on prices? Because let's say if a lot of people are training their NFTs, they earn rewards. They might have an incentive to basically sell those rewards. So just to brainstorm with you of how you're thinking about this thing and how it's being implemented.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with the first question, which is like, what is the locking thing and why it's important? The locking aspect of it, when you use the Ali token, you can upgrade the level of your pod. So we have different levels of the pods. We have a level one pod, we have a level two pod, level three pod, and a level four pod. Where we can see today transparently at Alethea, we can only see to level five. That means roadmap wise, we see level five like an INFT that could play games for you, could create games for you, could be an interactive NPC character in a metaverse. We can see to that extent. We can't see level 6 to 10 because technology is changing so quickly. Like level 6 might just be like an INFT that integrates with Elon Musk's Neuralink, right? Like that's the potential of how quickly things are going. So for us, from level 1 to level 4 and level 5, if people want to upgrade their pods, they must purchase Ali tokens and lock them into the pod, and that signals to us, signals to the protocol, that this pod is capable of providing more compute, more services. This pod is more intelligent. It's like a kid that has read more books, right? And so, like as a child is growing in its intelligence and age, it can do more functions and services in the network. It can create art, it can write, and then one day, as it goes to graduate school, it can create PhD theses. Like things like that become possible as you upgrade the level. So that's like core utility in the network, and the token is used in many different aspects and ways, but this is like a core thing where people want to upgrade their INFTs to get to higher levels. The train to earn model, just going to your second part of your question, the train to earn model is very interesting from our standpoint, because the difference between play to earn and train to earn is play to earn requires humans in the loop, right? So human players playing with their NFTs, earning yield, all of that is certainly a valuable framework that has been invented, and we credit our friends YGG and XC for taking that initiative and building that economy, right? But the train to earn model says humans in the loop are important, but if we have AIs in the loop that can work for you and you can train them, and they can be agents or participants after your curation of their data sets and their intelligence, what else are they capable of doing? And so, as they are trained and as they go on different metaverses to farm rewards, the rewards will come back to the owner. So, we see future guilds being almost guilds that are oriented around AI based guilds, where these AI characters can exist in different metaverses and provide different functions and utilities and earn rewards for their original owners. So that's the difference on train to earn, where we see a step shift occurring when you look at the AI as a labor input to drive more efficiencies in the market. And so, like the final question on like token economics, whether people would sell these rewards, to a large degree, yes, it's up to them to decide to sell these rewards. But the way the ecosystem is designed is you can then use these rewards to then funnel and upgrade the intelligence of your characters, right? You can continue to upgrade the intelligence and earn more rewards and participate in the network as you start to create more INFTs.
Yeah, I just want to remind our audience that anybody can go and train the like NFT and INFTs there. So Arif, can you just show us on your on your platform on how our users can do it? Like basically just show them around that how, like if they wanted to uh, basically earn these rewards, what they would have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, the first step is to get a pod, right? Like the moment you get a pod, you're able to, and the pods they have different price floors for different. Let me just show the personality pods very quickly. So here is the personality pod collection, and this collection also launched in partnership with our friends at OpenSea. Has about 9,800 items. The owners look a little bit lesser because we have a staking campaign going on right now, but I think we have about 5,000 unique owners that own these pods. And we have different levels of different pods, like I was sharing earlier, right? So, like you can click intelligence levels, you'll see different colors, different capabilities that each pod is able to actually create or provide. And so, one of the things that these pods do, the moment you own a pod, and some of these pod floors are indeed like higher in price because they present more computational intelligence. But one of the things that occurs once you have a pod, you are then able to go to the Alethea AI ecosystem. You can go here and you can then click on train and you'll connect your pod here. Once you connect your pod, you'll have access to basically a personality trainer module where you can type the story of your character, and our AI engine will begin piecing together the different aspects of it. The simple thing is like we have a simple model which is create, train, earn. So the moment you have an NFT collection that's approved, you can then pair it with the pod. You can start training it, and once you start training it, the character is then it's able to be brought to life, and then you can start. The third phase will be when you can start to earn rewards on the network. The characters that are already earning rewards on the network today are the Revenants, for example, that are already live and they perform services and functions. When you enter Discord, you get a video message. But where it starts to get interesting is all of these testnet characters that you see that we have integrated, whether it's a Doge Pound or a Penguin or a Boss Lady, all of these characters will soon be able, or an ETH Rock, right? All of these characters will have their own unique personalities and will be able to create their own unique assets. And so that's where the earning part comes in. And so each person, for example, in our ecosystem has token rewards and credit rewards that they can then convert into the Ali native token.
Yeah, that's interesting. So one question that kind of pops up in my head is with the train to earn model. Let's say if you have a trainer who has some nefarious purposes, it's
Yeah.
basically trying to kind of create this racist, or like is trying to corrupt the NFT, for example. So how do we tackle that? And another concern could be, let's say, the DAO model, right? Like if the type of DAO, let's say in 10 years time, that basically takes control of the DAO, they might have nefarious purpose. So how do we kind of think about these problems?
Yeah. So I think the first problem, like we've thought about it internally a little bit, it is a complex problem, very difficult to solve. We call it the Hitler problem. It touches at the core of culture. So, like, do you allow hate speech to exist in culture? Who defines hate speech? So, like, let's say if somebody, we call it the Hitler problem because if somebody wants to create a character, buys an INFT and a pod, and then decides to fuse together a character called Hitler and trains the character's knowledge on the book Mein Kampf, right? So it's a huge problem. We don't want our network and economy to become like a 4chan style component where it's just like spewing hate speech, right? So we have certain filters in place today. This is the part where we are centralized a bit because the technology and the language that we put in, we have certain filters. So like if you go into a training module and you type train and you want to call your INFT Hitler, we don't let you do that, right? We put that as one of the banned words, right? But one day a DAO will indeed start to have more control over some of these decisions we are taking today. And the second part around the DAO is like, while we have filters today and some controls, the challenge is that a DAO can also get decisions wrong, right? Like if you look at, for example, some of the challenges that decentralized organizations have had, it's not a panacea. Decentralization is a pathway that we must pursue, but we are not seeing any answers there that emerge around a decentralized collective that can control culture. The opposite, what I know the answer is not, is for a centralized company to control it. So, for example, when Twitter or YouTube decides what is free speech, right? Like that's already very dangerous. But I think like as long as we don't go in that direction and we all look at a little bit more on the open direction, we have a clearer path.
Yeah, that makes sense. You also touched upon YGG and XC Infinity, so I think now could be a good time to kind of discuss some of the partnership you guys have had and some of the partnership you guys are working on. That could be quite fruitful in terms of mass adoption of your platform.
Yeah. So I think the YGG partnership is quite unique in the sense that they have a large number of scholars, and we see these scholars as like a really cool platform for them to come and train our AI, right? So like the more data sets that we accrue, the more our AI gets smarter. So like for example, we did a battle of the Revenants sometime back in our original staking campaign, where we had our community of 30,000 go in, teach our AIs about. There was a question we asked because our AI engine wasn't knowledgeable enough about this, which was, should humans colonize other planets, right? Given our propensity for war, our desire for harm. And so the AI engine before versus the AI engine after, there's a significant shift. Once it starts collecting data, it gets smarter over time. And then the AI engine at the end, for example, was able to articulate certain arguments that we did not have before, right? So that's quite interesting as a growth. So when you partner with an ecosystem like YGG, with a visionary founder like Gabby who understands that the data revolution is happening, how can we get the working class to participate in this data revolution and not just be subservient to it? That's what excites us when we can tap into communities like that. So from our perspective, that's an exciting partnership. The other cool partnerships that we have, we're going to be having a really cool, exciting drop with OpenSea shortly as one of their notable drop campaigns. And that's always exciting because I think they've created a really vibrant ecosystem where people are really discovering unique projects. So we've been working closely with them on this exciting drop that's coming out, I think, on the 7th of March.
So this may not be Alpha League.
It would be an alpha leak, but depends on when when it goes live. So we should be announcing it tomorrow to our community.
Uh, can you also tell us a little bit about your roadmap ahead and how we kind of see some of the development ahead and maybe some of the new features that you guys are thinking about or some new features that could come across as optionality.
Yeah, so I'd love for your community to join us on the INFT demo day. We're also going to announce that at the end of March. So we have a couple of really cool judges coming. We have the head of innovation from Spotify. We have the president of Time Magazine, Keith. They're all coming to understand this one thing, which is what happens when you create the creator, right? And so, like, when people can create their own creators who can then create content. That's like a weird idea, man. So like the opportunities for creativity just increase exponentially. So that's what essentially the pods do. So these pods, they've gone through training. Our community has trained them. They're going to present these pods and the characters that they have to a panel of judges. These INFTs will be presenting their art. Think of it as like a Shark Tank for like AI characters, right? So they'll be presenting their art. Some of them will have songs. Some of them will have voices to rap with. So what is the future of content creation going to look like when you are the owner of that INFT agent and you can actually influence the direction? And so that's really exciting in the short term. In the mid to longer term, where we're seeing us go is like really enabling us to become an open protocol. That means anybody can come in and start creating content. I'm really excited about the possibility of like the community starting to take ownership of some aspects of like designing or deciding which INFT we should bring to life, which characters we can launch on our launch pad. So we'll be launching that as well, where anybody can vote or share with us which collections we should add to the INFT protocol. So our computer vision algorithms will then go to work on like looking at, okay, so in this collection, these are where the eyes are, these are where the nose is, this is how we can animate it. So we're excited about the growth plans this year as we scale to like 100,000 and 1 million users.
Yeah, that sounds exciting, Arif. So we've already touched upon some of the risks mentioned. Are there any particular significant risk you see that basically keeps you up at night, apart from some of the risks we have already discussed? And how do you kind of see the competitive landscape emerging? Like we know Altered State Machine is also trying to do something similar. Epinoyum AI is also is doing something similar but very different from you guys. So how do you kind of see the landscape emerging
Yeah.
within this space?
So I think as a principle, I'll deal with the landscape question first, because whether it's competitive, I think principally any project that is building Web3 oriented AI and oriented by NFTs or integrating that is a net positive for humanity, because it's moving us in the direction of decentralization. That's like really, really positive. So we're really excited because when we first started it, like it was just like a solo a pursuit, because it was so difficult to explain to investors why you should combine these two technologies, why ownership is important, because the message just wasn't resonating. But once people started seeing like, hey, I can own the NFT and now I can also own the AI, and I can evolve this AI and it can earn rewards for me and I can sit back. Like that's like a shift in the way that we think about these NFT assets, right? So that's coming. So we've seen like really good projects come to life. I think we even share some co-investors with some of the companies you mentioned. We're supportive of any project that actually is doing cool stuff. There are a lot more. Like when we started it, of course, in December 2019, and January 2020, when I put the thesis out there, there was no one. But now there are many more projects coming to light. There's some that are, of course, like directly copying, unfortunately, and the innovation is not there. But there are others that I think are pushing it in distinct and unique directions. So, for example, I think some are more GameFi oriented. They're just building AI games. Others are like building a boxing game. The AIs are learning, and the NFTs are collectible, right? So the thesis is playing out. The sector, the category has been created. Now that the category has been created, how many more are going to come? Our bet, our thesis is it's going to be exponential. There's going to be thousands, hundreds of thousands of startups building AI NFTs. And what's going to be really exciting is the creativity it will unlock. And as long as it's on Web3, much better than being in like a meta-oriented metaverse, right? So that's what's exciting to us in terms of like difficult challenges or risks. The way that we're seeing it is we are still all, and this is like true, and don't let any AI NFT project bullshit you on this. All of them are relying on centralized servers today, right? There is a decentralized component, which is the NFT part. But every single AI model must run today on GCP, Google Cloud, AWS, or they must run on centralized servers or Huawei's cloud. Anybody that tells you that they're not running their models on there is lying to you, so you should run. But if they're honest about it, they'll say, today it's centralized. Our hope is to get it to be decentralized, right? So then you can, one day my AI model might run on my decentralized cloud that I'm running at home, that's part of the Helium network, or some golem network or some sort of framework, right? So like we need to think a little bit about that problem, because there is a reliance there, and that reliance can be very tricky to manage. So that's a strategic risk.
Yeah, that makes sense, and you also brought up a very important point. Yeah, I do feel like going forward, the infrastructure regarding cloud computing could eventually become decentralized. But I think you raised a very important point. One question I had was like one of the differential factors between different startups who are kind of working with AI, NFT and AI, like fusing them together, could be community. So how is your community kind of different? What's the culture like? I would love to hear some of your thoughts regarding that.
Yeah, I think I'm really, really proud of our community, because they've like, number one, they've pushed like us as a core team to like deliver like whatever timelines. Like we slip up on the timelines, they go after us, right? So like they've also been like, they've been helpful in keeping us accountable, but then at the same time, they've really pushed the tech. So like they've been thinking of creative use cases. The Revenants, for example, are used so creatively in many different ways and systems right now. People want to create art with them. Like a lot of the ideas that you see on our roadmap actually have bubbled up from the community, and so that's exciting. So we have about, I think, 30,000 across Twitter and Discord and mailing list, but I think total we have now about 50,000 people actually using the platform on a monthly basis, creating videos. We have almost 15 million API calls done already on our ecosystem, which is really, really great. So it's a healthy ecosystem. It's not yet at the scale where you describe like an Axie or like with millions of users, but we see ourselves actually growing in that direction. And so the community has been like, we have certain values of an Alethean, right? And that's like, be helpful, help people understand what AI is. Don't ever let the jargon of AI intimidate someone out of it, because that's one of the things that experts and like really like sophisticated people with endless PhDs do, right? Like they make it sound so complex that it intimidates you as a user. So for me, at least from a standpoint of like democratizing this technology, like the community is actually a representative of that value. So very excited to have them with us as well.
Yeah, love it, love it. So Arif, before we conclude, is there anything you want to add or anything we might have missed?
Yeah, no, I think, thank you, Mehdi. This was a wonderful opportunity to share and collaborate with the wonderful team at Token Metrics. I think what we're really excited about is the opportunity for people to be able to really create the creator, right? Like, and like this is something that it sounds weird to say, like, and I think once people really get it, that your AI companions, your AIs will be your friends, your companions, your helpers. It really is a powerful vision, but it's also being executed on. That means you can go into there and you can create a mini version of a character very easily if you own a pod. And so like these things are building blocks. It's Our project is indeed a long-term project. Like there is a 3 to 5 year horizon, but in terms of growth, we're starting to see a lot of people really get this message that they would be able to create the creator.
Yes. So I think I learned first about your project. I think was one of the demo videos from NFT NYC. Are there any conferences that you are attending in the future that our community members perhaps can catch you on?
Yeah. I think we should be in NFT LA. We'll also be at NFT NYC again in June. I was due to go to South by Southwest, where we were supposed to have a session with one of our investors, Mark Cuban, but unfortunately have to pass on it because of the travel schedule and the upcoming product launches that we're having. So I think like this coming year, we have a number of different events and conferences. We also just recently concluded a wonderful conference in Wyoming, which was it's called 10,000 feet. The 10,000 feet view of on NFTs, where we had a chance to really speak with people and understand like how they are thinking about NFTs. And then now they're just getting used to NFTs. Now we're adding another layer of complexity and saying you can add AI into it, right? So we'll have a couple of events. I invite all of your community members to join us on Discord. It's an open, welcoming community, and when they join, they'll get a custom Revenant greeting them as well.
Thank you, Arif. It was my pleasure having you on 100x. It was a good conversation. I had a blast, and I learned a lot about Noah's Ark and INFTs.
Thank you so much, Mehdi, for your excellent questions and the fantastic research. Always happy to be on the show.